Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and I know it's been a while since I've done like a face video, but happy Pride Month, everybody. Yeah, happy Pride Month. Um yeah, so in today's video, I am going to be talking about my coming out story for Pride. I'm a little nervous. It's not something I talk about on my channel. I don't really get controversial or anything, and I don't want anyone to feel like I'm taking away from the matters of what's going on right now in the world and in the US and other parts of the world. All I'm here to do today is to tell my story and hopefully encourage others to live their truth and to give some people hope, because I come from a religious and conservative background. And I do want to preference this video by saying I came out whenever I was 13 years old, and now I am a 20-year-old man. It's been it's been 7 years. I've been out and proud for 7 years, and I live in a very rural and conservative part of southern Georgia in the United States, and it's hard. It's hard because I have been bullied to no end, whether that was physically or mentally, like just hearing slurs and stuff. I just recently, well, not just recently, it was around February of this year, 2020, I was discriminated against in my workplace. One of my coworkers decided to come up to me and ask me if I was a gay man, and I said, yes, I am. I don't feel a need to flaunt myself like other people, but if that's you, then do you. Everyone do them. Everyone be happy and be who you are. I am just more of an introvert. I don't like talking about things like this, but I feel like it's not only important for me, but I feel like if it can help anyone and give them hope, then that's really all that matters. But yeah, just this year, I was discriminated against in my workplace. I had my coworker come up and ask me if I was gay. I said yes, and she proceeded to tell me, you know, that's wrong, you're disgusting, and you're gonna go to hell or burn, right? I didn't take any action against this because I had no evidence of it, because the place I was working at the time didn't have audio on the cameras, and I didn't have my phone on recorder or anything, so I didn't get it. All I did was tell my manager, and all she got was a slap on the wrist and told to never do that again. Yeah. So I already filmed the video, but I wanted to jump in here real quick in the beginning just to clear up some things that I didn't clear up last time, and I want everyone to know that I am very happy where I am now in my life. My family is fully accepting of me, and me and my mother watch RuPaul's Drag Race together and Dragula. So both my parents, they love me, they support me 100%, and I just want to make that clear in the video. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into it. Okay, so where should we start? Okay, well, I know where I should start. Sorry, I'm nervous. I haven't ever really talked about it on camera before, or like on my YouTube channel, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, so when I first realized I was gay, I was in 5th grade, and I had a hard time coming to terms with it, mostly because I was brought up to be a very conservative person in a very conservative family. I mean, my parents were more liberal than like my grandparents or like my aunts and uncles. So, I mean, it was kind of a catch-22 situation, but I mean, I feel like hearing that it's wrong your entire life is just crazy. So yeah, around 5th grade is whenever I started to get it. I was like 10 or 11, and it was just like, well, I like boys. Boys are cute. Boys are awesome. Well, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, I really started to get it around that age, you know. No, I didn't necessarily know fully, but I mean, I had a good guess. And I think the weirdest thing about it for me was I've never really been ashamed of it. Like, I remember in 5th grade, once I fully realized it, and once I was like, okay, yeah, I like boys, that must mean I'm gay. I mean, I was, just proud of it. I mean, I was always proud of it, especially at school. I mean, the bullying was horrible, but we'll get to that later on. But, yeah, I mean, I've never really been ashamed of it at all. I mean, it's a little bit difficult to come to terms with, especially whenever I had never been around another gay person myself. I didn't have that clutch. I didn't have that safe space. So it led me into some dark times, but I think from an early age when I realized it, I knew who I was. And, you know, that's a difficult situation to deal with, especially whenever you don't have anyone you can talk to about it. But when I came out, I think I was in 7th or 8th grade. I was 13 or 14, and the bullying was just insane. I mean, I couldn't even get on the bus without having just offensive slurs be at my presence 24/7. I mean, people were bullied just for being friends with me. And I mean, shit, it is what it is. Like, I mean, back then, it was really hard to deal with because, like I said, I didn't really have anyone. And my parents both expressed, like, early on, like, nah, that's not what you do. Like, that's disgusting, like, blah, blah, blah. And hearing that really affected me as a child. Like, how can I tell my family this? Because, like, I had already told all my friends at school, you know, I was an openly gay kid at school. But when you get to a point where everyone knows but your family, it really takes a specific kind of toll on you. It's like you're living a double life. Like, you are who you are. Like, you are yourself when you're not around your family. And it all came to a head on a specific day. I don't remember the specific day, but I do remember I was 13. I think I was in 7th grade, yeah. But the bullying and not really having anyone to talk to, and going to a very conservative school, there were no adults I could talk to. No adults at all. And I do remember I had this one teacher. Her name was Miss Sawyer, and she was wonderful. I actually really need to check up on her, side note. But she was the more, I don't want to say fully liberal, but she was the more hopeful teacher. And definitely around that time, a little bit before it came out, I had, hold on, sorry. I had started cutting myself on my wrists and stuff. I don't feel comfortable showing the scars yet. I think maybe later on in another video or something I will, but yeah, I started cutting my arms, my wrists, my legs, and it was a pretty dark time. But especially, there was this one day, I was just in computer class. Miss Sawyer was there because she was the teacher at the time, and I was really down and out, and my friends were there. One of my friends was there, and she was telling me, like, you know, you really need to tell someone. You really need to talk to somebody. She's like, I'm trying my best to be here for you, but there's only so much I can do. And you know, I understand that with anyone. There's only so much you can do with anybody, but one day, that day, I was getting picked on in class, and she was there, and she was like, you know, I really think that you need to tell her. You need to tell Miss Sawyer. And I pulled her into her office. Well, she was already in her office. I walked into her office, and I was like, hey, you know, can I talk to you? And she was like, yeah. And I basically told her everything. And she, like, about the bullying and the stuff going on at home, which, I mean, wasn't bad because I loved my parents, but I was just telling her basically how I don't have anyone to talk to, and I felt like she was the only one I could. And she asked me if she could, if she could put her hand on my arm, and I said yes, and she lifted up my sleeve, and she saw, and I just remember her looking at me and just starting to cry, and she was like, you know, you always seem like a happy child, you always seem so positive. It's really sad when stuff like this happens to good kids. And she gave me a hug, and she was like, everything's gonna be all right. She's like, we'll handle it, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, and I told her the multiple people that were throwing slurs at me, telling me to kill myself, all this shit. And, she forwarded that information to the counselor, because in any school district it's required, which, I mean, I don't ever hate on her about that, but eventually, yes, I was called to the counselor's office, and she wanted to know what was going on. And I told her, I said, I'm tired of the harassment, I'm tired of the bullying, you know. And she was like, have you been cutting? And I showed her, and because I couldn't tell her no. She had already heard it from the teacher herself, so I had to show her. And I remember telling her that, yes, I am gay, but I would really appreciate it if, you know, if we could do something to open people's minds, like start a gay LGBTQIA plus alliance or something like that. And she looked at me and she said, where we're located is so conservative that would never happen, and she would never help make that happen. I gave my counselor the names of all the people who were bullying me. Well, yeah, not all of them, but the major ones that really got to me. Excuse me. And she said, okay. She immediately phoned my parents, and about 15 minutes later, I would say, I was picked up by my family, by my dad, and I didn't really want to talk about it, but both my mom and dad worked at the same place at the time, so whenever I got there, I went straight into my mom's office, and my dad had to go do what he had to do, but he was super worried, and my mom wanted to know what was going on. And at that point, you know, I was 13, you know, I was kind of living a double life. I was kind of living my own truth whenever I was in school, but also not living my truth at home. And so I told her, I was straight up, I was like, Mom, I'm gay. And she went silent for a minute, and she was like, nothing you can say or do would ever make me stop loving you. And then she just brought me into a big hug, and it was good getting it off my chest to my mom, but my dad, on the other hand, that was a little different. So my dad walks back into her office, and he wants to know what's going on, and my mom refuses to tell him for me, so I have to say it again, and I tell him, and he didn't understand at the time, and you know, he was just kept saying, how do you know you're gay? How do you know this? How do you know that? And I'm like, the same way you know you're straight, Dad. You just do. It's just something that you know. And granted, it's not like that for everybody, because some people don't really find out who they are until 20, 30, maybe even 40 years into their life. So it was definitely hard. And after that, things definitely changed for the better because they didn't kick me out, which was really good on them. You know, they were like, you're still my child. I still love you. There's no way I'm going to abandon you. And that really made me feel a hell of a lot better about the whole situation. And, yeah. And after that, though, we didn't quite, talk about it ever again, really, for a long time. Me and my parents kind of just went silent on each other for about a month. Like, me and my mom would occasionally, it would get brought up, and she kept saying stuff like, if you really are gay, if you really are this, if you really are that. And one day I looked at her and I said, Mother, I would not have told you unless it was true. There's no reason to deny who I am because you might not understand it. I was like, I know I'm gay the same way you know you're straight, the same way you knew that you wanted my dad, the same way my dad knew that he loved women. It was the same concept for me. And I think it took a while for them to fully come around to it. Me and my dad had a talk about it later on. He was definitely trying to understand it, which I very much appreciate from both of my parents. They both wanted to understand, really. I think my mom was mostly like, okay, but let's not talk about it in the beginning. Just kind of like my dad. They were all trying to come to terms with it themselves because I had 13 years to come to terms with it. Okay, I just came out and they needed time. And I was not about to force conversations, even though talking about it is the only way that you're going to move past it and you're going to move past the culture shock. But if anyone's wondering, no, they weren't going to kick me out or anything like that, which I appreciated because both of my parents came from a very religious and conservative background, and I had been told all my life, like, no, you don't do that. That's disgusting. Like, I remember my mom grounding me one day because I did defend gay people as a child and stuff like that. And she even made me go to church the next day. But, I mean, all in all, my family, they were very religious. Now, me and my siblings, on the other hand, I am not religious. And neither are either of my siblings. So, yeah. But, so that's pretty much the coming out story. It was hopeful in the end because my parents both still loved me. They just needed time to adjust to the new of everything. Because, I mean, when you're coming out and when you're figuring out who you are, you have that time to come to terms with it. But you also have to give people you love time to come to terms with it. Because it could be like they never even knew. And they can be like, wow, now I have to change my whole outlook of how my family might look in the future. But yeah, so that's that's my coming out story. I know it might be anticlimactic because, I mean, nothing really horrible came from it. But I'm glad for that. And the bullying and like the homophobia I had to endure, wouldn't change it for the world. Because that made me who I am today. A strong man who can take criticism, who can fight hate with love. And so I wouldn't change it for the world. Because it's helped shape me into who I am. So, yeah. Well, I guess that's it for the video today. I hope people actually get what I was trying to say. I know I kind of like jump around from different topic to topics, but I'm nervous. But, yeah, and the reason why I'm sharing my story is because I just want people to know that not all stories have to end on a bad note. Not all coming out stories have to end with the kid being kicked out. And if I can convince someone to have courage, or if I can convince someone to live their truth and be who they are, that's means the world to me. And so yeah, anyway, happy Pride, you guys. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you very much.